Welcome to Transformative Principal, where we interview real principals who are doing amazing things to help our students every single day. I'm your host, Jethro Jones. You can find me on Twitter at Jethro Jones. Today, we're very fortunate to have Curt Rees on the podcast. Curt is an amazing principal out in Onalaska, Wisconsin, and I've been following him for a long time, and he's always been a great voice to listen to. I hope you enjoy this interview with him tonight. We're going to talk about how he has been in many places and learned a lot of things about his doctoral program that he's currently in and about the importance of the 4 C's. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Voxer app that he used that I have started using myself since talking with him, and I've been able to learn a lot from other principals and also share things with them. It's been pretty cool. So if you haven't used Voxer, it'd be neat for you to give that a try. Download it. You're welcome to send me any messages to test it out and learn how you would like to use it. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I hope you share it with your friends and let them know how much you are learning from the Transformative Principal podcast. This is just part 1 of my interview with Curt. We'll have more for you next week. So let's go ahead and get started. Curt, why don't you tell us about who you are and what you're doing and all that jazz.
Yeah, sure. My name is Curt Rees, and you can find me on Twitter, same name, Curtrees. And I'm an elementary school principal in Onalaska, Wisconsin. And our part of Wisconsin is a great place, right on the Mississippi River on the Minnesota border. And I'm an elementary school principal. Northern Hills Elementary is my school, and it's a pre-K through 5 building, about 400 total students. Very good district in which to work, and I've been there 11 years and really enjoy being there.
Great. And 11 years at the same school or in the same district?
11 years in the district, and I've been principal at my school for the past 10.
Okay, great. And where did you teach, and what did you do before you were principal?
Yeah, so before I was an administrator, I was an elementary school teacher. And my first job was in Albuquerque, New Mexico at a fantastic Jewish day school, the Solomon Schechter Day School. It was a great place to get started with my career. Being a person from small town South Dakota, I didn't have any Jewish friends necessarily, but I gained a whole bunch of them once I started working in Albuquerque, and it just was a wonderful family environment. My wife and I were, new to town, didn't know anyone else there, but someone had us over for dinner almost every Friday and Saturday. It was really nice. So I taught in a classroom. So I was a 3rd and 4th grade teacher, but then I was also the school's social. What was my title? Computer science coordinator was my job, which meant ordering and installing a bunch of Tom Snyder software and then making sure all the computers were networked and the printers were working.
Oh, fun.
Yep. And then taught a few more years when we moved to the St. Louis area. And I went to Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, and that's where I got my master's and then my administrative degree. And my first principalship was in Grand Fork, Illinois.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool. So you've been all over the place. What has caused you to move so much?
We did that intentionally. Both my wife and I are from South Dakota. We met in college in Minnesota and just knew we wanted to see different parts of the country. So before we had kids, we intentionally went to Albuquerque instead of like Lincoln, Nebraska, which is a lot like home for us. And so it was fun to get out and see different places and meet new people. And eventually we migrated back here to the upper Midwest in Wisconsin.
Well, that's cool. That's good. So let's talk a little bit about you're in school right now and you're in a doctoral program. Talk a little bit about that and how you balance being a principal and doing homework and attending your online classes and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, that's a great topic because some days I wonder if I am balancing it. But you and I were chatting before we went live here, I guess, and that was one of the things about what I'm up to and how you had mentioned some of the blog posts I've written in the past. I just don't write as much. I'm certainly writing a lot, but not on my blog because much of my writing is for my doctoral work, which is through the University of Kentucky. They have a school tech leadership program, and I'm in their PhD cohort, and it's been really good. I love the cohort approach because it's extremely collaborative learning. The professors that I work with at Kentucky, they absolutely know how to do online learning well. They aren't just taking a class that they've taught forever and kind of retrofit and are not just making YouTube videos and forcing us to watch them. It all works pretty well, and I know that when I'm finished, I'll have improve my skills in leadership, but then also in technology as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you would ask about how I balance it out, and I just had this conversation with Joe Mazza the other day, and Jeff Zuhl, who have already finished their doctorate work, and we were exchanging messages through the Voxer app. And I asked that same question about because I was kind of feeling down that day and like I was running out of time. And their encouragement was, just keep swimming, as Dory would say. But and I lost my train of thought on this. So balancing it all out and making it work, and it's really what you're giving up when I think about the amount of time. If you don't watch TV, that's about the same amount of time. So instead of maybe before PhD program, I might sit down and watch some mindless TV for a couple hours each night. But then it's not as easy as watching TV because your mental energy takes a lot more work to get your graduate work done, as opposed to just watching a football game. But I know when it's all done, it's worth it. Clay Shirky, who wrote the book Cognitive Surplus, talked about the same concept that if collectively we put as much effort and time into social problems in the world, we could possibly solve them instead of the amount of time that we spend just watching TV. Yeah. I'm not against TV watching. I love Breaking Bad and the Denver Broncos, so I try to watch things like that, but dedicate other time after the kids go to bed to doctoral work.
Yeah, I hear you. So what is it that you hope to get out of this particular doctoral program? So some people get a PhD because they want to do research and eventually be a professor. Some people get a PhD because they want to be a superintendent. But this is a different kind of PhD. I mean, the degree is the same, but the things you're learning are different. Talk about what your goal is from doing all this.
Right. This program, it's a PhD program, so there's a big emphasis on research. So when I'm finished, it will give me options about what I may want to do. I likely won't choose a superintendency. That just doesn't seem to be something I'm interested in, but who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind down the road. I work with a great superintendent right now and appreciate what he does. So maybe down the road I'll want to say, hey, I want to do the same thing for other educators like Dr. Finko has done for me. But having the PhD might be an inside track into a time when I might want to work in higher ed. I have a brother who's a professor at Arizona State University. My wife also has her PhD, and she works here at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. And I see the academic life through them, and it looks like a pretty good life. But just like anything, there's ups and downs to all of it. But specifically what I'm learning, now the focus on my program is in educational leadership. So every single day, I learn something through my coursework that's applicable to what I do during my day job, even though I work a lot at night and sometimes on weekends with my day job. About being a good leader of a school. But specifically what I really liked about the School Tech Leadership Program was just the type of learning that I'm learning about, I think is very applicable to what my students need to know, and then certainly what my staff needs to know. When you think about the 4 C's from the partnership of the 21st century skills: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. All of those things aren't dependent upon tech, but certainly there's a lot of tech tools that can help students use those tools. So that's what I hope to get through this options, but then also just a really deep understanding of how to make education a great place for all of our students and all of our staff.
Yeah. And about those 4 C's, by the way, that video that you posted of your kids and being a ninja was pretty awesome. And I especially liked how the ninja part was done and the video was only half over, and then they had a whole nother video's worth of bloopers to add to the end. That was pretty cute. So
right. I mean, certainly I think they're the world's cutest kids because they're mine. Naturally. But I really I was proud of the collaboration that they showed, because you have an 11-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl, and sometimes siblings just, I think they go out of their way to find things to argue about. But in this particular project, they did it all on their own. They worked out the script together. I didn't even know they were doing it. It happened to be on a Saturday morning. I was actually logged in, to this very location, working on some doctoral work, and they were downstairs, and I could hear some giggling and cackling. I thought, well, that's a good sign. And then they had created that video and then even uploaded it and shared it without any help at all. So
Right.
great collaboration and creativity from my two awesome kids.
That sure is. So did they learn how to do that kind of stuff in school or at your house?
Both. We've always had an iPad or two laying around the house just for different things. But my son is at a middle school where it's all project-based learning in his particular program. So instead of just writing a typical book report, what he has liked to do, and I helped him with it a few times, is record videos where he's narrating what he's liked about the book and what he's learned. And I showed him how to do the editing on iMovie on the iPad, which is a fantastic app. If you don't have it, it's absolutely worth the $5. So I taught him that way, and then we've also made just a couple funny videos. My wife and my kids, they did a thrift shop parody, or more of a lip sync, and then certainly we did the Harlem Shake one too. So they saw how all of that came together. So my kids have really enjoyed that, especially my son. He really gets into the tech stuff.
That's good. My daughter did a year ago did a Goldilocks and the Three Bears video, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and I asked her what she wanted to do, and she said, well, I want to make a movie. I wasn't really expecting that response, but we did a storyboard, wrote it all out, and then went through the process of doing that, and I helped her edit it, and she got bored of that editing part and just like the movie making part, but she got really into that, and it was really exciting to see her feel like she could start something and then feel like she could go all the way through and finish it. And she was only 5 at the time and was in preschool and just getting ready to start kindergarten. But, that kind of activity would have been really hard to do when I was a kid. And my dad happened to buy some video equipment when I was in high school, and it cost tens of thousands of dollars and was way too complicated for me to even touch. And I thought it was cool that he was doing it, but there was no way that I could have done that, especially not when I was 5. And now my 5-year-old daughter and your 11-year-old son are, able to do these things without us even knowing that they're doing it. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that makes me think about the tech side of things, as because I think that the learning portion is the most important. And sometimes tech can enable that, and sometimes tech can get in the way. But when you're thinking about a $5 app, but then also one that's extremely powerful and pretty easy to use, it really allows a kid, in this case we're talking about our kids, it really allows a kid, or even a grown-up, to really show their creativity and their collaboration. So here we see a tool that supports the type of learning and experience we want for kids, rather than a tool that's getting in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things you mentioned was chatting with Joe Mazza and somebody else, I don't remember who.
Jeff Zool.
Yeah, thank you. On Voxer. Tell me about that. That's an app that I've used, but haven't really been able to see anything too beneficial from it.
Right. And Voxer, and I'll give credit to Gina Sherry, who is a teacher here in Wisconsin. I learned about it from her, but then also Tammy Lind, another Wisconsin educator. And they showed it to me, and I'm like, oh, what's that for? Because it's labeled as like a walkie-talkie app. I'm like, well, how often do I need to walkie-talkie somebody?
Right.
But what I really like about it is you are able to share voice messages with people. And it doesn't have to be synchronous. So for example, if I'm driving in the car and want to leave a message to a colleague or even to my wife, I can just record a quick audio message, and then it gets sent to them. Another cool feature of Voxer is that you can do group chats, which is what a lot of us do. So I have one group with a bunch of friends, and share information about best practices and what's going on here in the States. But then I have another Voxer group with some really cool, and we're all elementary principals, and I learned so much from them. And it's often it's just about sharing a silly story, a frustration. It's an appropriate place to vent. So we're able to share all these messages with one another, but then also get feedback and offer support.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. So how did you get connected with these other principals? Did you have to teach them the tool, or were they already using it and you just joined a group?
No, it was pretty easy. It's a simple tool to use. Just like kids do when they get a new video game, they don't sit down and read the manual and then invest some time and then take a practice test and then jump into it. No, they just do it. And that's the same way with Voxer. Pretty easy to use. And we just had I just had shared with Jessica Johnson, who's Principal J,
Mm-hmm.
who's a friend here in Wisconsin, and so she and I started to use it, and then we just pulled in some other people who we had connected with through Twitter, and just sharing and just starting this group that we now call our Voxer family because we communicate quite frequently. And I like it. If you're on an email listserv, sometimes it's kind of a pain to type everything out. But I like the humanity side of things that Voxer can bring because you're actually using your voice and someone can hear your intonation, where that can get lost in an email. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever said something in an email that came across absolutely the wrong way because there's no tone of voice or lack of context. So actually exchanging voice messages, I think, is a great way to just really share things that especially need an emotional side to them.
Mm-hmm. Just a fabulous interview with Curt Rees. I'm so fortunate that I was able to speak to him. We're going to have more coming from him next week. I hope that you are able to implement something that you learned today. Those 4 C's, I think, are a great way to approach any curriculum matter that you have: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And make sure that you're finding ways for your students to do those things every single day in what they're doing. Thank you so much for downloading and listening to this podcast. Please subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher, and please feel free to give us a rating on Stitcher Radio or on iTunes so that we can help spread the word about how much we're learning in this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter @JethroJones.